Hey, I'm Hashem, you're watching Pushing Film, and if you're not new to the channel here, you're probably used to a fair few videos seeing this, but in today's video I want to talk a little bit more about this. So what goes on in the background, some of the tools and gear I use, a little bit of the studio space, how I make my videos, and a lot of workflow and strategies that also cross over with my general photography work, whether it's for client stuff like weddings and so on. Now, I realize that this type of video may not be for everyone, and especially if you mainly come to the channel here for very film focused stuff, and that's completely understandable, but the channel has come a long way in the last 4 years since starting it, or over 4 years now, including that very first video, filming in a cafe with minimal equipment, including one of those cheap Skype headsets on the desk as a microphone. Otherwise I look like a Kodak fan. What's up, Pushing Film here? Did you really write that?
I was just like, it's just an intro.
So we started off with very basic gear, filming in places like rooftops or car parks, just using milk crates with a piece of wood on top as a table, or even just out on the street learning all along the way. And it's been a really fun journey since then. So hopefully some of this might be interesting or helpful to some of you guys who also run a YouTube channel or even just thinking of starting one. This is a lot of stuff I had to learn through trial and error. So hopefully some of this might be useful for you, whether it is to do with starting your own YouTube channel or maybe even just some general comparison points to your own photography and video workflow, or even studio related stuff, including a lot of gear that I'll be going over in this video. All right, so I'll start off with a bit of a studio tour in a moment, going over a lot of the space. And this current studio has come a long way ever since my first home office desk, or whatever setup you'd like to call it. And I'm sure it'll continue to change as time goes along. Now, of course, I'm really appreciative of the growth this channel has made over these years, including all the things I've learned through making YouTube videos, all the great people I've met. And besides always having the passion to continue doing this, I genuinely enjoy doing it. A lot of it wouldn't have been as possible without the support of you guys. And this probably would have died in the water a long time ago without the support of all you viewers. So with any of the gear that I mention that I use in this video, I'll put affiliate links in the description of this video. If you happen to use any of these links to make any purchases on Amazon, it won't cost you anymore, but they are affiliate links, so they will throw me a small commission, which I am very appreciative of. All right, so we'll jump off tripod a little bit here and give you a bit of a general tour of the space. And starting off with the desk that I have here. This is a desk I've been using for a while. It's just a plain sort of minimal black desk, but more importantly, it has the space to fit my dual monitor setup and PC, but we'll come back to that a little bit more later on. So let's start off with what I actually use to make my videos, which is the camera I'm actually filming on at the moment is the Canon 5D Mark IV. And on the 5D lately, since having gotten it a couple of months ago, I've been using this Atomos Shinobi monitor, which comes in really handy for setting up compositions, doing things like this. It's what I'm using to shoot this video, but I'll generally have it on my Manfrotto tripod there. And as for lighting, I've been using this Godox SL60W with the Neewer softbox here, which has been great ever since having gotten this light. It doesn't make too much noise, which is great for filming at home. And as for audio, I use this Rode VideoMic NTG on a simple Amazon microphone boom arm sort of setup. And that's usually recording into this Zoom H4n. And it's quite an old audio recorder, but it still works quite well for my purposes. However, at the moment I'm using the Rode Wireless Go hooked up to a lapel, just because I'm walking around and want that little bit of freedom to sort of move around. So with the lapel attached, for example, this makes a great option if I'm out shooting vlogs as well, or anything where I need to be able to move around and not be too tethered. And I definitely like Rode products. They're great quality, and it's a bonus that they're made in Australia as well. So I can definitely recommend both those Rode microphone systems. All right, so circling back to that camera shelf that you probably have seen in a lot of the videos, that's what I use to store all of my gear, whether it's all my film gear, including things like lenses, and then whether it's digital cameras, which will generally live there as well, and also where I store my negatives in binders down there. I'll talk a little bit more about that soon, and just general bits and pieces. So that's just a simple storage shelf. And if you're curious, you've probably seen this neon sign in a lot of my videos before. I have quite an interesting story on how I acquired that neon sign, so I'll put a card up here if you're interested in seeing that, but it is a genuine 1 hour photos sign from an old photo lab, and I'm really grateful for that. It makes a nice little bit of backlighting in the videos to give a bit of interest. All right, so next to the shelf, I have this little chest of drawers here, which is where I keep my printer, and that's an Epson XP 15000 color printer, which is what I've been using for a few years now to make all my own prints at home. It does up to decent sizes of A3 plus, and it's a good entry to mid-level printer, and I've been really happy with it ever since starting to use that. All right, so right next to that here, I have my little sort of workstation desk, and this is where I'll be working on any current projects, anything I'm currently fixing or repairing in terms of cameras, including just changing light seals and stuff like that. At the moment, I've got some prints here from a zine that I'm working on. It's also where I'll scan film using the essential film holder, so there might be rolls waiting to be scanned around here. And in this desk, I have some storage just for little tools, bits and pieces, including some light seal foam there, and lots of various tools and stuff in that drawer. So once I've scanned film, this is also where I'll do my archiving. So I'll generally cut and sleeve all my film here and store it in these types of binders using print file sleeves. I'm trying to develop a consistent system for that, and it could be something I'll do a future video on if you guys are interested in that. All right, so circling back to this side, we'll head over to the enlarger stand that I have here. And this is an LPL 7700 Pro enlarger, black and white enlarger that I have set up on this sort of mobile shelf on wheels, which I just bought online but replaced the caster wheels on it. And what it makes is a handy way to get all my darkroom stuff into the bathroom in case I ever want to print, and I can just wheel it back into this area here. And I initially built this based on a video I saw by Ted Forbes on the art of photography. It's a pretty popular method for setting up a little mobile darkroom rack. So I definitely recommend something like this if you're tight for space like I am. All right, so coming back to the desk here, just talk a little bit more about my computer setup. And the system itself is one that I built with parts online about a year ago. And it's running on a Ryzen system with a GeForce GTX 2060 Super, I'm pretty sure, graphics card. And I could go on a lot about the contents of that for any of you computer nerds out there, but I'll probably not go into too much detail in this video. So with any of the media that I'm out making, whether it's for videos for this channel or photography work or projects or anything like that, I'll bring it onto the PC here and download it onto one of the built-in hard drives that I have in there, including some SSDs and NVMe drives, which tend to run quite fast, but I'll also make backups to Seagate external hard drives. These are what I currently use. They're the Seagate expansion drives. I usually buy them in multiples and use them to back up. So that may not be the most effective method for backup, but for me it is the most cost effective in terms of efficiency. These old style hard drive bricks are pretty cheap, and who knows, I might change to a different system in the future. That's what I've currently been doing, and I find it quite reliable. As for recording onto the media itself, it's quite important, but I try and use high quality cards, which are generally SanDisk Extreme cards in my case. This, just in my experience, I've always found these to be the most reliable compared to other cards I've used over the many years. So I always buy these SanDisk cards for all my digital camera needs. So once I have my photos or footage on board, what I'm actually using to edit my projects is generally DaVinci Resolve at the moment. I used to use Adobe Premiere for the longest time, ever since being in TAFE or uni. But recently I made the switch to DaVinci Resolve free version, and I've been finding it really great so far. I've actually, now that I've gotten used to it, finding it even better than Premiere's workflow. That's just all, I guess, personal preference, but I do use DaVinci Resolve to edit all my video work at the moment. And for photography, of course, I use Adobe Lightroom, which I pay for the Adobe Photo Suite subscription, which gives you Lightroom and Photoshop. So besides Lightroom, I might occasionally use Photoshop as well. And as for the screen setups I have here, this is quite important, especially if you print, but I have a decent photography monitor, which is the BenQ, I think it's SW2700PT. I'll correct myself in the description if I'm wrong, but I'll definitely put a link to this monitor, because I did a lot of research over many years into what kind of monitor I could get to upgrade my old basic Samsung monitor that I've been using for about 15 years. And when I finally could afford it and bit the bullet, I got this BenQ because I found it to be a really good, affordable, good value for money photography monitor. All the reviews are generally quite great. It is a bit of an older model now, but for that reason I got a pretty good price on it. But I can highly recommend it for color accuracy and having a good range of color for printing, which I use to proof any prints I make at home or prints that I send out to be print elsewhere. And what I use for calibration is just this Datacolor Spider X color calibrator. I'm not sure if it's the best out there. I have heard that the opposing brand, I'm not sure what it's called, is a little bit better, but this one I found to be good value for money, and so far it's served me pretty well. All right, so I was using that old Samsung monitor as a second monitor for a while, but I recently got rid of that. It was kind of playing up and I got this Dell monitor to replace it, to use as a second monitor, usually in this portrait orientation. But the great thing is I have it on an arm here that allows me to rotate it or move it around however I want. So that's really handy when it comes to editing. I might have it for video editing set up like this, or even photo editing, I can use it. All right, so once I'm out shooting a project, whether it's a video for YouTube or whatever, I'll bring the footage back home. It's probably been shot on my Canon 5D Mark IV for the most part, which I'm shooting on now as mentioned. And sometimes I'll shoot in Canon log. And a lot of time I'll have extra footage from different cameras, including my phone camera, which I'll use for a lot of B-roll, something like a GoPro maybe, or even my second Canon camera, my old one, which is the Canon 6D, which I use as a secondary camera on a lot of jobs, including weddings. I usually shoot all my footage, especially for these YouTube videos, on just simple 1080p, 25 frames per second, unless I need some slow motion and I use 50 frames, or I might sometimes use 4K for outside footage, or if I want to be able to crop in or do some pans or anything like that. But in the future, I might start using 4K a little bit more. The only thing is it is costly on storage. But otherwise, another important element when putting my videos together is the music. And when I started the channel, I used to just scour random royalty-free music websites and just find whatever I could. It would take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but that was when the channel was starting off and I couldn't afford or justify paying for any of those music library memberships at the time. So I did that for a while. So eventually I started to do things like using music suggested by friends or friends' music tracks that they said you can go ahead and use on your YouTube videos. And that seemed to kind of work for a while, except sometimes I ran into the issue where I would get a copyright claim through YouTube on some of those tracks because those friends may not have known that their music was protected by some agency they signed up for. So without their knowledge, there was some protection built in and I was getting copyright claims quite a few times, and that can be a real issue. So eventually when I could start to justify it and the channel was growing, I started to do all the free trials on those music service websites like Epidemic Sounds and Soundstripe and Artlist. And after everything, I actually ended up settling on Artlist. It was the one I liked the most. So I've been using that for about the last year now, and Artlist is actually the sponsor of this video. I'm really grateful for them to reaching out for the sponsorship, but I made sure I actually used the service for a while before agreeing to do this video. So I've been using it for a year, and I actually just paid for another year and renewed my membership. That way I don't run into any of the problems I mentioned previously with getting copyright claims. I find it a lot quicker and easier to find music for my videos. Even compared to Soundstripe, which I used before that, that was also pretty good. But I like the user interface and experience and the speed of loading on Artlist's website a fair bit more. And they actually had more songs in the library as well. So that was another thing that landed me on Artlist as the choice out of all the trials I did on those music service websites. So if I have a video project in mind, like a vlog, it's really easy for me to find a type of track that suits it. I can just filter by mood or genre or whatever it is. Sometimes I highlight quite a few tracks and download them as options. And then the great thing about that is the license gives you unlimited music, so I don't have to worry about how many tracks I download. It has a really simple licensing service, and the license for any songs you download lasts forever, which is great. And with any of the music I've used in videos over the last year, I haven't had any issues with copyright claims because all the music on Artlist is pre-checked with YouTube, so I don't have to worry about that. One of the other great things is there's always new music being added, so it's really easy to find tracks that are relatively fresh. So if you are interested in joining Artlist, you can use the link in the description of my video to get an extra 2 months free. I can genuinely recommend it as I've been using it for a while. I'm really happy with it. All right, so reaching the end of the process now. Once I've chucked together all the media for a project, photos, video, music, whatever, I'll export it, upload it to YouTube, for example, or whether it's a photo I'm working on, I will use the correct color proofing profile to make a print. And there's a lot more I could go into here, but what I wanted to cover more so in this video was on the surface level of how I make my videos, a lot of the gear, the strategies and workflow that I use for making the final product. I know that there's a lot more I could go into with this video, but I didn't want to make it too long. So if there is any particular part of this studio or workflow type aspect that you want more information on, just let me know. You can ask me in the comments and I'll try and answer your questions. If there is anything specific that you think would be worth going into a future video for, like darkroom printing, so just feel free to let me know. So once again, the channel has come a long way since those modest starts in the beginning. I'm really appreciative of everyone watching and has been watching for a long time, especially for all their support. I've learned a lot through this experience. This is what I currently am using for my YouTube video and other photo video workflows, but I'm sure it will change in the future. All right guys, so thanks for watching. I hope you found some of this interesting, and if you're interested in continuing the discussion, you can join the Discord server which I've made for Pushing Film. There's an invite link in the description of this video. And like I said, if you have any other questions in regards to anything mentioned in this video, please feel free to ask me in the comments. Thanks again for your support, and I'll see you on the next episode of Pushing Film.